Good day, everyone. It's Chef P. I'm going to be making homemade pizza today. So let's take a look at our mise en place here. So we've already done bread together and we've made pretzels and that sort of thing. So I went ahead and prepared this dough. So this is a yeast-based dough, and you'll see the recipe attached. But remember to start off, dissolve your yeast, sugar, salt in your very warm water. Okay, so blood temperature or slightly a bit warmer. And then once that starts to get mixed up, just like we did with the French baguettes and the pretzels, once that starts to happen, we're going to add the flour in there. Then we'll mix that in there, and then we'll knead it out. So remember with the palm, and roll it over, and palm, and palm, and palm. And I've let that sit for about an hour and a half, and you can see it's risen quite nicely. And we're going to want that for our crust. Okay, so we want it to be nice and light and fluffy and delicious. So along with that flour, I'm going to need some, along with my dough, I'm going to need some flour to roll it out and the whole bit. And then if we move over to this side here, I've prepared the pizza sauce already, and I've got the recipe there for you as well. But what I've done here, and there's really no reason not to make your own pizza sauce. So I've taken diced tomatoes and some garlic powder and pepper and oregano and basil and olive oil and some salt and sugar, and I've blended that up until I've tasted it, and I've got the measurements on that recipe for you guys if you want to copy it. But I just go by flavor, and you're going to want that sauce to be a little bit saltier than you'd expect because it's going to flavor the whole pizza. Okay, so that's really, really important. I'm going to make two pizzas for you today. The first one is Pizza Bianca, una Pizza Bianca, which is basically a white pizza. And the reason that I demonstrate this one is everybody knows what the one with sauce looks like, although I will make one with sauce and cheese just to show you. But I'm going to make a white pizza first. And that white pizza, rather than having a tomato sauce, typically has olive oil and usually some onion, some garlic, some herbs, and some coarse salt and pepper, and very little cheese. And what you'll notice about Italian pizza, so if you've been to Europe and you've been to Italy and you've been even into France, you'll notice that they don't load up pizzas like we do. Here we put lots of sauce, lots of cheese, all kinds of ingredients. In Italy, you'll probably see 2-3 ingredients, very thin sort of crust, and very little bit of cheese, just to flavor it well. Okay, and again, they're using really, really good ingredients, and that's the whole idea, is to bring out the flavor of those ingredients. Okay, so I'm going to take you through this. Before we get started, we're going to want to bring this, I'm going to go up to convection bake. I'm going to go 550 degrees. Okay, so we're going really, really, really high here. If you're lucky enough to have a pizza stone, then that stone would go in there and get heated up really, really well. And again, a pizza oven is basically set up that way. The whole bottom of a pizza oven is stone and heats up really, really, really high. And there's usually about a 1.5 foot gap in there, which allows the heat to really circulate and cooks that pizza really, really quickly and really nicely. Okay, and what we're looking for here is a rustic pizza. And I'll show you how I roll it just to give it sort of that rustic feel. Okay, so see you in a second. Okay, so a couple of preliminary items. We're going to slice some onion and we're going to slice some garlic. And we're going to be using this on our Pizza Bianca. Okay, so I'm just going to, I've got a half onion that I had left over here. So I'm just going to take out that core completely. So we're not dicing this onion. We don't want that core to show up anywhere. And I'm just going to slice it nice and thin. And again, you can adapt this pizza to be whatever you want, just like you can your regular pizza as well. Whatever you like. I'm just going to give you a quick example. I really like the white pizza, and I convert students every year when I teach it. At first they kind of go, oh no, sauce, no sauce, not enough cheese, the whole bit. But once you have it, it's really delicious, and it can be cut differently so that you could use it sort of like a little snack. You could make little finger pizzas and then use those on a tray, or even with a marinara dip as well. So I'm gonna slice this garlic nice and thin. Okay, and I want it to be little rounds. That's it. Other things you could do, you could put sun-dried tomatoes on them. You could even put just regular sliced tomatoes, and you know, anything else that you can kind of think of. I'm going to take these, put these aside. I'm using just straight mozzarella today. Okay, so that sounded about as white guy as you can get. Mozzarella. It's actually mozzarella. So you know, any of our Italian friends will correct you quite quickly on that one. Mozzarella. So mozzarella is a nice soft cheese, melts really well, and it gives us that sort of pizza yumminess that we love. Now you could do a blend of different cheeses, and sometimes I like to mix it up with some Monterey Jack. Monterey Jack is just a great cheese for pizza as well, but we're just going to go straight mozzarella today. Mozzarella. There we go. So you guys can practice that. Mozzarella. Mozzarella. Not mozzarella. There we go. Okay, so almost done that. Of course, sometimes she gets stuck in there. All right. All right, I'm going to finish grating this, and we'll see you in a moment. Okay, so there's my mountain of mozzarella. And again, not mozzarella, right? Otherwise they'll call you a munja cake. All right, so anyway, I'm gonna put that aside. We're gonna start to roll this dough. All right, so I'm going to dust my station like that. I've made enough dough for 2 pizzas. So I'm gonna pour out that dough like that. And what I try to do with that dough is I try to maintain the shape that it's already there, and then that way when I start to roll it out, it'll just be an expansion of that shape. So I'm going to go through here and take this knife. Reminder, don't cut onto your cutting board or your counter. Okay, just go right through like that, and try to make sort of 2 circles. If I start with a circle, I can easily maintain that circle. So one of the key things to do with pizza dough is just poke it through. Now I personally really like it when the dough's not exactly perfectly round, when the thickness isn't the same all over the place. I find that it makes a nice rustic looking pizza, but that's really your choice. So you could just get this nice and coated. I'm making sure it's not sticking. Okay, you could use this, right? And roll it out like that. But you can also just stretch it through your hands like this. And what I do is I just use the backs of my hands. I don't want to use the fingers and poke through. I want to sort of bring it through, and I'm stretching it out. And what I've got going on here is kind of cool because I've got different parts that are a little thicker than others, and that's exactly what I want. Okay? It may not be exactly what you want, but you do what you like with pizza. Okay, so I'm going to take this, I'm going to make sure it's kind of dusted really well. I've got a pan ready, and I'm not going to dress this until I've got it on a pan. So I will take this, put this on this pan, and it will wait for me for a few minutes. I'll move that aside. I'll take the other piece of dough, because I'm going to make one Pizza Bianca and the other one a regular sort of sauce and cheese pizza. Like that. So yeah, I'm just kind of poking it through like that, and this will still rise a little bit, and if I can and I have the ability, then I could let that rise a little bit as well right on the pan, and you'll see that it just makes a fluffier pizza. All right, there we go. I'm gonna just give her a couple rolls here like that, just thin it out a bit. And again, if I need to stretch it, the cool thing about pizza dough is it will give and it'll take as well. So let's say you can kind of see that this shape isn't perfect. It's got kind of a pointed edge to it. But what I can do is I can actually just sort of tuck it out like this, and it will give me a little bit. And if I've got too much, then I can actually just kind of let it take it back and then get back to that rough circle that I'm looking for. Again, I like a couple of these little pockets, and you'll see how nice that works out, especially when we make our Pizza Bianca. So I'm going to take this other dough, I'm going to put it on this pan. There we go. All right, just going to tidy this up, and then I'll bring these here and we'll start to build them. All right, welcome back. We're going to make this Pizza Bianca. Okay, so we're going to start off with some olive oil, and then we're going to start to season that up. We're going to be using coarse kosher salt today, and we need that salt to bring out the flavors. There's not much going on here. You don't have some strong tomato sauce in the bottom giving you some bottom end flavor. So we're going to have to create those flavors with the herbs and the pepper and the onions and garlic that we're putting on, but that salt is going to bring that out, okay, and make this quite delicious. So we're going to start off with the olive oil. I typically, whether it be sauce or olive oil or whatever, I always start with the middle, and then I use my fingers and I just bring it, but I want to go close to the edge, but I don't want to go over the edge. Okay, so I'm going to do that, and basically this olive oil will become infused and will become the sauce for our pizza. Okay, so that's it. We're doing a pretty good job here. And now we're going to start layering that with some different flavors. So I'm going to start off with, I really like rosemary for this kind of pizza. So we're going to start off with some rosemary. If you've got the fresh, that's way better. My garden isn't in that state yet, so we're going to have to go with dry. Now what I like to do is just sort of crush this and break this up a little bit and get those flavors coming out. And I'm going to just get those in there a little bit. And rosemary has this really, really nice flavor to it. And I just think it's just made for this type of pizza. Let's just go with a little bit more. There we go. Then I'm going to take my onions and I want to really spread them out. So I just have little sort of, I'll call them filaments for lack of a better word, but just these little tiny, I don't want to have big chunks of onion. I just want to have just little pieces, little fillets that are actually going to cook and almost disappear. So almost for people who say, well, you know what, I really don't like onions and that sort of thing, they kind of disappear. So not too bad at all. Now you could saute these onions in a little bit of balsamic vinegar, and that gives you a whole new layer of flavor too, and that's just absolutely wonderful. And you can go a lot of ways with this. There's even a pizza that's very similar to this, a classic Italian pizza that's a potato pizza. And what they do is they put the shell down, and then they slice potatoes very, very thin, and they toss them in herbs and olive oil, and then they lay them out this way, and they cover the whole pizza with potatoes and a little bit of salt and pepper and some Parmesan cheese, and bake it off like that. And you'd think that it doesn't sound great, but it's actually delicious. So if you're feeling gutsy, do that, but remember to slice those potatoes really, really thin when you do that. All right, garlic. We're going to spread those out. And then I'm going to add some more herbs. We're going to go with a little bit of oregano as well, and some crushed black pepper. And I want to make sure that I get some everywhere. Black olives would be beautiful on this too. And you know what? I might just put some on there too. I might just do that. I'll put them on at the end. That's a great idea. All right, next, I'm going to get some oregano. Again, this is just the dry stuff, so we're not in a perfect world right now, but yeah, you could use fresh. That would be great. Just remember that when you're using fresh, you're going to need about twice the amount that you do than you do with dry. It just requires more. The dry just has more pungent flavors. The fresh gives you just a fresher, nicer flavor, I find. Anyways, I'm taking the rest of these onions too. There we go. All right, and let's put those black olives on there. That's a great idea. Which are that here. If you don't like olives, don't use olives. You like green, put green. Not a big deal. I had some black ones here, so I will just spread those out like that. Little sun-dried tomato wouldn't be bad here either. Okay, and I also like to just put a little bit of chili flakes too. So I'm going to grab those as well. And again, we're not layering the pizza like a North American pizza. We're really just sort of bringing out some of those flavors. We're letting the pizza speak for itself. It's not going to be overpowered with one flavor or the other. All right, so let's get some flakes on there as well. So some pepper flakes. That should be pretty good. And now we're going to go with a little bit of black pepper. Like that. Then I'm going to go with a little bit of Parmesan cheese. Again, if you've got some Parmigiano Reggiano, then use that first, but I just happen to have this around, so we'll use that. And I'm just going to use a little bit of the mozzarella to sort of bind it all together. So not a ton, but just enough to get it in there, like that. Okay. Then I'm going to pop that one in, and then we'll build the other one very, very quickly. Okay, so, oops, I forgot the salt. So, kosher salt, don't just pour it out of here. Put it in your hand, and then just want to get a little bit everywhere. And I like the coarse salt for this. It just tends to make it a little nicer. That's it. And I'm going to pop this one in the oven. Now, that should take about 10 minutes. Just keep an eye on it, though, okay? So remember, we're dealing with 550 degrees, and we're using a regular oven, okay? So ultimately, a pizza oven would be the best, or if you had a stone, that would be great, too. But we're going to keep an eye on this, and when I put my next pizza in, I'm just going to swap them around a little bit and just keep an eye on them. So let's make the other one. Okay, so this other shell is here. Using the parchment is always a good idea. If I were to just put this on here and let it sit for 5-10 minutes, if I didn't flour it enough, it would become part of this pan and could get stuck, and there's nothing more frustrating than a pizza that's stuck. I love the parchment for this sort of thing. So I'm going to take my pizza sauce that I made earlier, which you have the recipe down below, and even anytime I put a sauce on here, I always start from the center. And I'm going to start here. There we go. And you just start by moving it around. Again, I don't want to go right to the edge. I want to get close. I want it to have a crust, but I don't want it to bleed over and start to burn. That would be not good. All right, so let's bring that around. And if you like a little bit more sauce, put a little bit more sauce. But what I will say is when there's way too much sauce, you pick up a slice and all of a sudden all that cheese falls over and just makes an absolute mess. You just want to flavor it. And again, if we stay with our Italian friends on this one, you just want to get the flavors through. You just want them to be delicious. They shouldn't be overpowered by one thing. Okay, and again, I'm just going to make a cheese pizza here today, but you could put whatever you like on them. There we go. So I've kept a little bit of an edge all the way through. Okay, now if you wanted to stuff this with cheese, a lot of kids in class, every time we make pizza, oh, can I stuff the crust? Yeah, you could. If you do that, put your cheese in here, you're going to roll it up, and then you're going to have to pinch all the inside. So once you fold it over, pinch it so that it all becomes part of that. Otherwise, it'll just open and that cheese will pour out, and what a waste. So, with my mozzarella, I'm going to start from the center. There we go. And you'll notice that you end up using a lot of mozzarella to make your pizza, okay? And when we make it at school, I pick up very many kilos when we start to do this. So just realize you probably need about half a block if you want it to be cheesy as per semi-North American standard. And some people, the more the better, but sometimes I find that just gets lost. Now I'm just going to use this up, so it's going to be pretty cheesy, but here we go. All right. Going to move that, make sure it gets close to the edge. And then it's nice and full. If you're putting toppings on, what I suggest is this. Put a little layer of cheese, then put your toppings on. Then a little bit of cheese on top too. So I find a lot of times when you order a pizza and you ask for double cheese, they put the double cheese on the bottom and they still throw all the stuff on the top. I like to have layers of that, okay, so that the cheese on top actually encompasses and holds this all here. Now, a Chicago style pizza, and I'll just talk to you about that for a second, is typically made in a container like this. I'm gonna put this in the oven while I talk to you about this here, but there we go. A Chicago style pizza, okay, deep dish. I was lucky enough to go a couple years ago to Chicago and actually have one, and I had had one here before at maybe Pizza Hut or something, and anyways, I won't talk about Pizza Hut, but what you would do with this is you would take it, you know, if you're looking at a Giordano's pizza in Chicago, you would take your dough, you would fill all the inside of this. Then you'd load up your cheese, and it'd be nice and thick with any toppings that you wanted inside it. So you'd put all that in there, the cheese and all that stuff. Then you'd put another piece of pizza dough on top, and you'd crimp it to the dough that's already in here. So the dough would be in here just like a pie. So it goes right up to here, all the way around. Then you put all your cheese and your toppings and things like that inside. And then you put another layer of pizza dough, and then you would put just sauce on the top and maybe a little bit of Parmesan cheese, maybe a little bit of mozzarella, and that's it, and you would bake it. And I never thought I'd like it, but it's truly amazing when it's done right. Okay? Anyways, that's all for that. I'm going to bake those off. I'm just gonna hit pause so you can see what they look like when they come out. All right? And I hope that you guys end up making your own pizza. See you in a few minutes. Okay, I can smell it. It looks delightful. So that first pizza is almost done, so I want to show you what that looks like. Look at that. Doesn't that look fantastic? So yeah, before I cut that, I want to leave it maybe a minute or two before I go. The smells that are coming off it are just absolutely wonderful. All the herbs and stuff. So I'm going to cut this. There's a couple ways to do that. Going to show you. You could use that little device if you want to. Okay, and I find the easiest way is make a plus and then cut that plus in half, and now you have 8 pieces. Okay, or you could take this off, put it on a board, use a chef's knife, and just sort of cut it that way. Okay, so I'll let you decide what you want to do there. I'm just going to hit pause, and I'll show you the next pizza as well. And one more little tip. So after you've waited just a little bit before you've cut it, once you've cut it, just pull the pieces apart slightly like that. Okay, then you'll get a nice easy to pick up piece of pizza. And again, this Pizza Bianca makes a perfect little appetizer. You could cut these into fingers instead of these little pie slices. And you could serve them with a little bit of marinara or just like that, and that would be fine. Okay, so that's what I've done there. All right, stay tuned for the cheese pizza. Okay, so you've seen la Pizza Bianca. Now we're going to go la pizza al formaggio. Look at that. There she is. Beautiful. So I'm just going to let that cool before I cut it, okay, for about a minute or two, and then I'm going to run those through. I'm going to pull those little pieces apart, okay, and that's the mangia cake version of Italian pizza, okay. Pizza, there's so many good ways to make pizza, and there's so much bad pizza out there. I hope that you guys take the time, make your own pizza, try it out. You won't be disappointed. Anyway, have a wonderful day. We'll talk to you guys soon. Ciao.